Hey folks, this is Kelani. With the Best of Azeroth raid just a few weeks away, now is a perfect time to get all of your alts caught up so they're ready to jump into the fun whenever you feel the need. If you fancy tanking this time around, or your guild needs a healer to keep going, or maybe you just want to tinker around with a different DPS, no matter what pulls you onto another character, there's nothing worse than hopping over to an alt only to realise or remember that you didn't do anything to keep them up to date. It's actually incredibly quick to get a freshly dinked alt up to a reasonable item level these days, so let's have a look what you can do to get your alts caught up in super speed. The first thing you'll need to do is tackle the leveling process. If you aren't at max level, you have no chance of walking into that new raid. I know leveling can feel like a chore sometimes, so if you're getting a little bored, why don't you check out leveling via island expeditions. That can help break up the monotony, and it's actually very efficient. You can also level via dungeons, or questing with some of the new experience bonuses. It's really fast too. No matter which way you decide to go, you'll need to get to max level first. When you hit 120, the first thing you want to do is head down to Silithus and see Magni. Hopefully you're already revered with the champions of Azeroth on at least one character on your account by now, and if you are, you can skip over the entire rep grind process and get those 45 item levels added onto your amulet in just a few minutes. It might not seem like a lot, but this is one of the only ways to get significant item levels for that amulet, and who doesn't like free item levels anyways? After that, I would suggest checking your map to see what world bosses are currently active. You have 4 locations to check: Zandalar, Kulturas, Arathi Highlands, and now Darkshore. The world bosses in Zandalar and Kulturas have a chance to drop 355 loot, the world boss in Arathi can drop 370 loot, and the world boss over in Darkshore can drop 385 loot. Before you head out to any of these locations, I would suggest picking up your weekly seals. If you can only grab one seal, try use it on the Arathi or Darkshore world bosses. You never know when you might get lucky and replace one of your leveling pieces with a 385 or even higher item level piece of loot. These catch-up mechanics are getting a little crazy, but my Demon Hunter definitely isn't complaining. It might be a bit of a long shot to hope for some world boss loot, but any pieces you get will make the next step easier and it will save you a little bit of gold. If you haven't geared up an alt recently, or you just haven't been paying attention to professions at all, you might have missed that a lot of crafted gear has been bumped up to 340 item level. You can create this stuff fairly easily, but it's a lot faster to just buy it from the auction house. I didn't even have to send this character any gold to be able to fully afford a set of leather crafted gear. Some pieces were under 1000 gold each, so most of you should be able to kit out any fresh alts in 340 crafted gear pretty easily. This allows you to skip over so many stepping stones when compared to the start of the expansion. It's pretty crazy. The best part about this item level skip though is that some other sources of gear we'll be looking at all scale with your item level. Now obviously this isn't going to cover everything, and not every crafted item was bumped up to begin with. You'll be missing weapons, rings, trinkets, and azurite pieces, so helm, shoulders, and chest. You can buy 300 or 310 rings and weapons if you want to, or you can look at some other BOEs like weapons that come from island expeditions. All of those are item level 325, but they do tend to be a little bit more expensive. I would also recommend looking at the Dark Moon card trinkets. They're usually very powerful for what they are, and now that we've been in this expansion for quite a while, you can typically pick them up very cheap, at least compared to what they used to be. The only one which still runs for quite a bit is Fathoms, so keep that in mind. The more item levels you can get from the auction house, the faster this enticing is going to be, but don't worry, even if you can only afford the 340 crafted pieces in half of your slots, it's still way better than trying to go straight into world quests right after digging 120. You will want to keep an eye on the various weekly events that can pop up as well. There's one for doing 4 dungeons and another one for doing 5 time walking dungeons. Both of these events will reward you with the cash from the current raid tier. The 4 dungeon event rewards heroic loot, which is 370 item level, and the time walking events reward 355 item level loot from the weekly quest itself. Hopefully you get an item that patches up your gear, but again, it's practically free loot, so you should always be trying to get it done. Whenever time walking rolls around, you can also purchase various 320 items from the time walking vendors. This can be a great opportunity to grab some rings and trinkets especially, but it's generally just a really nice addition to help gearing up any alts. From here you have a few options. The first thing I would check in on is the current status of warfronts. Now that we have access to 2 warfronts at a time, at least one of them should be up pretty often. If your faction is currently sieging a warfront, you can hop down to your warfront table and pick up a quest for a shiny box of loot. The quest for the Arathi Highlands Warfront rewards 370 gear, while the Darkshore Warfront quest rewards some crazy 385 gear. Now, there are some item level requirements to get into both of these Warfronts. I think they're both set at 325 right now, so if you aren't quite there yet, we might have to do a bit of poking around, but that's fine. Just be sure to get the Warfronts done at least once whenever they come up. Those 370 and 385 pieces are where a lot of your later upgrades are going to be coming from. You should also be looking over your map a few times a day to see if any world quests are worth taking care of. World quest rewards can currently scale to 325 or 330, so up until that point you can still find upgrades for your more awkward slots like rings, trinkets and Azerite gear. Getting rid of your lowest item level pieces is always a great feeling and can boost up your average item level more than you might think. Keep an eye out for 325 Azerite gear and 320 rings and trinkets especially. At this point you should hopefully be seeing 340 item level rewards from emissary quests, which I would recommend you get done whenever one pops up. No matter what reward is on offer, you can make pretty good use of it. Gold and war resources will go towards your weekly seals, so you shouldn't have to worry about those, while artifact power will help get your amulet up to speed. The gear is obviously going to contribute towards your item level, so it's a win-win-win-win-win no matter what reward is on offer. The Azerite armor rewards can scale all the way up to 370, so as you get better gear, those emissaries will stay relevant. Another source of gear which works in the exact same way as emissaries is the faction assaults. These are on a timer much like the Legion invasions. You can actually find a timer on Wowhead to see when the next assaults will come up, but every assault will also give you a quest to complete 4 assault world quests. The reward is usually gear, which will also scale up to item level 370. Both emissaries and faction assaults will be useful and rewarding for quite a while to come. With crafted gear giving you a pretty huge boost to begin with, the real trick to catching up on your alts right now will be filling in all of the slots that were left behind. World quests, emissaries and faction assaults are usually your best bet for quick upgrades. By now you've probably exhausted the easy item level gains. It's a bit of a slow trek from here. You have the Warfronts for 370 and 385 pieces guaranteed every now and then, your emissaries should scale up to 355 and then 370 eventually, and the same goes for the faction assault rewards. The best source of reliable gear upgrades at this point is going to be running Warfronts whenever they're up. That's a guaranteed 340 piece every time you go through either Warfront. It might not be the piece you want, but at least it's guaranteed and you can get into Warfronts incredibly easily. All you have to do is queue up. The alternative is trying to run Mythic Dungeons, Mythic Plus, or maybe even stepping into raids. Mythic Dungeons might be a bit harder to get into without a decent item level tucked under your belt already, and Mythic Plus is going to be even harder. If you want to go the dungeon route, I would suggest trying to tank or heal if your class allows it. It will get you into the groups way faster, and try not to worry too much about messing up. Everyone started somewhere, and the only way you're going to get better is with practice, so maybe rip off that band-aid and try to give it a try. I'm not a particularly great tank, but I don't mind going through a few dungeons to skip the DPS queue every now and then. Try to get at least one Mythic Plus dungeon done per week. It can yield some easy rewards in your cache and you can start to collect residuum for later on down the line. I wouldn't really bother with looking for raid personally, as it only drops 340 item level loot and it can take quite a while to get into an LFR wing and even longer to get through it, and there's no guarantee you're going to get anything by the time you're done. Alright, so we're back on the gear treadmill for real now. How far do we have to go before we're caught up? Or at least in a good place. I would aim for 350 item level if you're not going to take the alt too seriously. You can go as far as you want to if you really want to play that tune, but 350 will be a good spot for Season 2, I think. Now there's a few reasons for that. For starters, the looking for raid difficulty of Battle of Desert Allure will require a minimum of 350 item level to enter, so you have that ticked off already, but a lot of changes are going to happen to item level rewards when the raid opens up on January 22nd. Normal dungeons will reward 340 item level gear, heroics will give you 355, and Mythic Zero dungeons, that's without a Mythic Plus key at all, will drop 370 gear, so not only does that almost entirely invalidate Uldir as a gearing up place, though that's going to make catching up to everyone else that much easier. So if you get some of the groundwork laid right now and set yourself up by getting to that 350 item level mark, or at least thereabouts, you should be able to jump straight into Mythic Dungeons in Season 2 with this character and gear up super quickly. But that's not all. All of the world quests will also scale up to 370 item level, with your emissaries and faction assaults scaling all the way up to item level 400. So again, if you go into Season 2 with a half decent item level, you'll reap the benefits of this scaling immediately instead of having to work your way up through 320 and 340 stuff again. I've only been working on this Demon Hunter for a day and a bit. I have less than 8 hours playtime at 120 and I'm already up to 343, so it doesn't take very long at all. So that's more or less everything when it comes to item level, but what about your artifact level? How important is that going to be in Season 2? As it turns out, very important. More traits are being added onto all pieces of Azerite gear, so we're going to need even higher amulet levels than before to reach that inner item level boost. The highest requirement I've seen is level 48 for the center trait in a mythic piece of gear. That's pretty high, and with artifact knowledge paused for the moment, I wouldn't expect to get anywhere close to that, especially for alts. I would say an amulet level of 30 or above would be a pretty good place to be, which also shouldn't take you too long if you're playing every now and then. If you really want to focus grind artifact power, and I feel so sorry for you if you actually do, I would recommend clearing any world quest off the map that award more than 200 AP, providing it isn't one of the world quests that takes forever or is in a really annoying spot to get to. Travel time and completion time are very important, so the easy kill target world quests are the best ones. Knock out enough world quests to finish your emissaries, especially artifact power emissaries, and after that you're looking at islands. Lots and lots and lots of islands. Island expeditions are the most efficient artifact power grind there is, so if you need the levels, I hope you have a pirate's hat or two stowed away in that inventory. But that's all I have to share for catching up on your alts before Season 2 arrives. Will you be leveling up anything in preparation of Season 2 and the Battle of Desert Allure? Are you excited for the raid to open, or are you a little more apprehensive with everything that's been going on? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.